The fork in my hand was halfway to my mouth when Patricia's voice cut through the dinner conversation like a blade through silk. Well, everyone, I suppose we should address the elephant in the room. Simone lost the baby 2 weeks ago. The piece of roasted chicken fell from my fork. It hit the china plate with a soft clink that seemed impossibly loud in the sudden silence. 15 faces turned toward me. 15 pairs of eyes, some confused, some pitying, all invasive. My face went hot, then cold, then hot again. I hadn't told anyone yet. Not even my own sister. The miscarriage had happened 12 days ago and I was still bleeding, still cramping, still waking up in the middle of the night reaching for a belly that would never grow. The doctor said it was normal for a first pregnancy. My body hadn't known what it was doing. These things happen, she'd said, as if that made the grief any smaller. Trevor's hand found mine under the table. His palm was sweaty. Or maybe that was mine. Mom, he said, his voice tight. That wasn't your news to share. Patricia dabbed at her mouth with her napkin, the picture of innocence in her navy blue dress and pearl necklace. Oh, I thought everyone knew. Simone's been so distant lately. I assumed she told people. I'd been distant because I could barely get out of bed. Because every time I went to the bathroom I was reminded of what my body had lost. Because Trevor had gone back to work after one day, saying he needed the distraction, leaving me alone in our apartment with my grief and my Google searches about whether the wine I'd had before I knew I was pregnant had killed my baby. No one knew, I said quietly. My voice sounded strange, like it was coming from far away. I wasn't ready to talk about it. Trevor's Aunt Louise, a kind woman with gray curls, reached across the table. Oh honey, I'm so sorry. If you need anything. She'll be fine, Patricia interrupted, waving her hand dismissively. Women have miscarriages all the time. She's young. There will be other babies. No need to make it into a big production. Something inside me snapped. It wasn't a loud break. It was quiet, like a thread being cut with very sharp scissors. I'd known about Patricia's affair for 6 months. I'd found the receipts in Trevor's car. Hotel rooms charged to her credit card. Dinners for 2 at restaurants on the other side of town, always on Thursday nights when she claimed to be at book club. I'd seen the texts on her phone one day when she'd left it on our kitchen counter. Messages to a man named Richard, sweet and flirtatious and completely damning. I'd kept quiet because Trevor worshipped his mother. Because Patricia was the matriarch of the family, the one everyone deferred to. Because I'd been raised to be polite, to keep family secrets, to not make waves. But she'd just thrown my most painful secret onto the dinner table like it was an appetizer. You know what else women do all the time, Patricia? I heard myself say. They have affairs. The silence that followed was different. Heavier. Dangerous. Trevor's father, Robert, set down his wine glass carefully. Excuse me? I'm sorry that I'm bringing this up at dinner, I continued, and I was surprised to find I actually meant it. Not sorry for Patricia, but sorry for Robert. Sorry for Trevor's younger brother Nathan and his wife. Sorry for all the cousins and aunts and uncles who were about to have their perfect family dinner destroyed. But since we're apparently sharing private information, everyone should know that Patricia has been having an affair with a man named Richard for at least the past 2 years. Thursday book clubs are actually Thursday hotel visits. Patricia's face went white, then red. How dare you? I dare because you just announced my miscarriage to 15 people. My voice was steady now, stronger. You took my pain and made it public without my consent. So now everyone gets to know your secret too. This is completely different, Patricia sputtered. You're right, I said. It is different. Because my miscarriage was something that happened to me. Something I had no control over. Your affair is a choice you're making every single week. A choice to betray your husband. Robert stood up slowly. He was a tall man, usually jovial, the kind of father-in-law who told dad jokes and always had butterscotch candies in his pocket. Right now he looked 10 years older than he had 5 minutes ago. Patricia? His voice cracked on her name. Is this true? Patricia opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. Robert, let me explain. Is true. She looked around the table, searching for an ally. Her sister, Trevor's Aunt Donna, was staring at her lap. Her brother wouldn't meet her eyes. Finally, she looked at me with such hatred that I felt it like a physical thing. Yes, she said. Yes, it's true. And you, she pointed a shaking finger at me, you have just destroyed this family. No, I said, standing up. My legs were shaking but they held me. You destroyed your marriage. I just stopped protecting you from the consequences. Trevor was suddenly on his feet too, his chair scraping back. Simone, what the hell? I turned to my husband. Really looked at him. He wasn't looking at me with concern or support. He was looking at me like I was the problem. Like I was the one who had done something wrong. Your mother just announced my miscarriage at dinner, Trevor. She took the most painful thing I've ever experienced and used it as dinner conversation. And you're angry at me? She shouldn't have done that, but you didn't have to. He gestured helplessly at his parents. His father was walking toward the front door. His mother was crying, loud theatrical sobs that somehow still sounded calculated. Didn't have to what? Tell the truth? Stand up for myself? You could have talked to me first. We could have handled this privately. Like you handled my miscarriage privately? By going to work the next day and leaving me alone? His jaw tightened. That's not fair. None of this is fair, Trevor. I grabbed my purse from the back of my chair. I'm going to my sister's house. Don't follow me. Simone, wait. But I was already walking out. Past Patricia's crying, past Robert's devastated face, past all the relatives who would probably never speak to me again. I walked out into the cool October air and got into my car. My hands were shaking so hard it took 3 tries to get the key in the ignition. When I finally started the car, I just sat there for a moment, engine running, heat slowly building. What had I done? No. The question wasn't what had I done. The question was why had I waited so long to do it? I put the car in drive and headed toward Rochelle's apartment across town. Behind me, the warm light from the dining room windows spilled out onto the perfectly manicured lawn. The picture of a perfect family dinner, now shattered. Good, I thought. Let it shatter. Some things needed to break before they could be rebuilt into something better. Rochelle took one look at my face and pulled me inside her apartment without asking questions. She settled me on her green velvet couch with a blanket and a cup of tea and waited. I told her everything. The miscarriage. Patricia's announcement. My retaliation. The look on Trevor's face when he chose his mother's feelings over mine. That which, Rochelle said when I finished. My sister was 3 years younger than me with the same brown skin and dark eyes but none of my diplomacy. She'd never liked Patricia. I'm glad you told everyone. She deserved it. I destroyed their family dinner. She destroyed your privacy first. Rochelle pulled her knees up to her chest. She was wearing purple pajama pants with tiny moons on them, even though it was only 8 in the evening. Simone, why didn't you tell me about the baby? About losing it? The tears I'd been holding back finally came. I didn't know how. I didn't want it to be real. If I said it out loud, it would be real. She moved closer and wrapped her arms around me. We sat like that for a long time, my tears soaking into her gray sweatshirt, her hand rubbing circles on my back the way our mother used to do when we were children. My phone buzzed. Then again. Then it started ringing. It's Trevor, I said, looking at the screen. You don't have to answer. But I did. I needed to hear what he would say. Hello? Simone, where are you? His voice was tight with stress. We need to talk about this. I'm safe. That's all you need to know right now. My parents just left. Mom is hysterical. Dad won't speak to her. Nathan is furious at you. This whole thing is a disaster. I stood up and walked to Rochelle's window. Her apartment overlooked a small park where kids played during the day. Right now it was empty except for shadows and streetlights. A disaster, I repeated. Your mother announced my miscarriage without permission, and you think I'm the disaster? I think you could have handled it better. You humiliated her in front of the whole family. She humiliated me first. That's not how marriage works, Simone. You don't keep score. You don't get revenge. You talk things through like adults. Something about his tone made my spine stiffen. When was the last time we talked things through, Trevor? When I told you I was pregnant and you said, okay, cool, and went back to watching the game. When I miscarried and you went to work the next day. When I've been crying in our bedroom for almost 2 weeks and you haven't asked me once how I'm really doing. Silence on the other end of the line. You need to come home, he said finally. We need to fix this. Fix what? Your mother's affair? Your father's broken heart? Or our marriage that's been breaking for a lot longer than tonight? Don't do this. His voice dropped lower. Don't make this bigger than it is. You're upset about the baby. I get it. But you're not thinking clearly. Actually, I'm thinking more clearly than I have in months. I watched a cat walk across the empty park, utterly unconcerned with the human dramas happening in the buildings around it. I'm staying at Rochelle's tonight. Tomorrow I'll come get some of my things. Your things? What does that mean? It means I need space to figure out what I want. What you want. Now his voice rose. You're my wife. You don't get to just leave because you're mad. Watch me. I hung up before he could respond. My hands were shaking again, but this time it wasn't from fear. It was from adrenaline. from the strange, dizzying sensation of finally standing up for myself. "You can stay here as long as you need," Rochelle said. She'd been listening quietly, but now she came to stand beside me at the window. "The couch pulls out into a bed. It's lumpy but it's yours." "Thank you." "Are you really leaving him?" "I don't know." But even as I said it, I realized it was a lie. I did know. I'd known for a while, maybe. I just hadn't been ready to admit it. He didn't even ask how I was. Did you notice that? He called to tell me I was wrong, to demand I come home, but he didn't ask if I was okay. Rochelle nodded. I noticed. My phone buzzed again. This time it was a text from Patricia. "You will regret what you've done. Our family will never forgive you for this betrayal." I showed it to Rochelle. "Betrayal?" she read aloud. "The audacity of this woman. She's the one having an affair, she's the one who announced your miscarriage, and you betrayed the family?" In her mind, I broke the rules. I aired family business in public. She aired your business first. That's different somehow. My pain doesn't count as private. Only her secrets do. I thought about all the times I'd bitten my tongue in that family. All the comments Patricia had made about my cooking, my cleaning, my career choices. The way she always introduced me as Trevor's wife, instead of by my name. The Christmas she'd given me a gym membership as a gift, saying she was worried about my health. I'd been a size 10. Perfectly healthy. But not thin enough for her standards. Trevor had laughed it off. "That's just how Mom is," he'd said. "She means well." But she didn't mean well. She meant to keep me small, to keep me apologetic, to make sure I knew my place in her family hierarchy. And I'd let her year after year because I wanted to be a good wife. Because I thought that's what love required. Another text came through. This time from Trevor's brother Nathan. "Thanks a lot for ruining dinner and probably my parents' marriage. Real classy." Then Aunt Donna, "I'm very disappointed in you, Simone. This was not your secret to tell." Then Trevor again, "People are texting me non-stop. You need to fix this. Call my mother and apologize." I turned off my phone. "Better?" Rochelle asked. "Much." She went to her linen closet and came back with sheets and an extra pillow. Together we pulled out the sofa bed and made it up. The sheets were yellow with little blue flowers. They smelled like lavender detergent. "I have work tomorrow," Rochelle said. "But you can stay here. Help yourself to anything in the fridge. I'll be home by 6 and we can figure out next steps." "Next steps," I repeated. The phrase felt heavy with possibility and terror in equal measure. That night, lying on Rochelle's lumpy sofa bed, I stared at the ceiling and thought about everything that had led to this moment. Not just the dinner, but all the small compromises and silences that had come before it. Every time I'd swallowed a retort. Every time I'd apologized when I wasn't sorry. Every time I'd made myself smaller to fit into Trevor's family. I thought about the baby I'd lost. I'd been 12 weeks along when it happened. Far enough that I'd started to imagine a future. A nursery in pale green. Teaching a child to ride a bike. Reading bedtime stories. I'd been terrified and excited in equal measure. When the bleeding started, I knew immediately something was wrong. Trevor was at work. I'd called him, trying to keep my voice calm, and he'd said, "Should I come home?" in a tone that suggested he hoped the answer was no. I'd gone to the hospital alone. Sat in the emergency room for 3 hours alone. Had the ultrasound that showed no heartbeat alone. Trevor had shown up eventually, looking uncomfortable and out of place. He'd held my hand during the procedure, but his mind was clearly elsewhere. "These things happen," he'd said, echoing the doctor. "We can try again." But I didn't want to try again. Not with him. Not in a marriage where my pain was an inconvenience and his mother's feelings mattered more than mine. I fell asleep finally, somewhere around 2 in the morning, and dreamed of that empty park outside Rochelle's window. In the dream I was the cat, walking across the grass without a care in the world, utterly and completely free. I woke up to sunlight streaming through Rochelle's sheer curtains and the smell of coffee. My sister was already gone, but she'd left a note on the kitchen counter. "Bagels in the fridge. You've got this. Love you." I made coffee and sat at her small kitchen table, trying to figure out what to do next. I needed clothes. I needed my laptop for work. I needed to face my apartment and Trevor eventually. My phone was still off. I turned it on and immediately regretted it. 43 text messages. 15 missed calls. 2 voicemails. Most were from Trevor, alternating between anger and pleading. A few were from various family members, all blaming me for the chaos. But there was one from Tamara, my best friend since college. "Rochelle told me what happened. I'm here if you need me. Love you." I texted her back, "Thank you. I'm okay." Just trying to figure things out. Her response came immediately, want company when you go get your stuff? Trevor shouldn't be alone with you right now. She was right. I didn't trust Trevor not to manipulate me into coming back. He was good at that. Good at making me doubt my own feelings, at convincing me I was overreacting. Yes, please, I texted back. Can you meet me at my place at noon? I'll be there. The apartment I shared with Trevor was in a nice building downtown. We'd moved in 2 years ago, excited about our future together. I'd loved the big windows and the modern kitchen. Now, unlocking the door with Tamara standing protectively beside me, it just looked like a place I used to live. Trevor was at work. Good. That would make this easier. What do you need? Tamara asked. She was a tall woman with dark skin and natural hair she wore in intricate braids. Today she was dressed for her job as a physical therapist, in maroon scrubs that somehow looked stylish on her. Clothes, laptop, important documents. I walked into the bedroom and started pulling things from my closet. Anything that's really mine. Take your time. I'm not going anywhere. I was folding a red sweater when I noticed it. Trevor's tablet on his nightstand. He usually kept it at his office. Why was it here? I picked it up. It wasn't locked. Trevor was careless about things like that, always assuming no one would look. I shouldn't have looked. That's what a good wife would do. Respect his privacy. But I'd stopped being a good wife last night at that dinner table. The tablet opened to his messages. I started scrolling, not sure what I was looking for. Work conversations about projects and deadlines. Messages to his brother about a football game. And then a thread that made my breath catch. Bethany was saved in his contacts with a little heart emoji. The messages went back over a year. A year of flirtation that had turned into something more. Meeting for lunch that turned into meeting for drinks that turned into hotel rooms and lies. I wish I could stay all night, she texted 2 months ago. But we both know that's too risky. Soon, he'd replied. Once I figure out the best way to tell Simone, we can stop sneaking around. I sat down hard on the bed. The tablet felt heavy in my hands. Simone. Tamara appeared in the doorway. You okay? You look like you've seen a ghost. He's having an affair. My voice sounded distant to my own ears. Trevor's been having an affair for over a year. Tamara crossed the room in 3 quick steps and sat beside me. She took the tablet and scrolled through the messages, her face growing darker with each screen. This whole time, I said. While I was trying to get pregnant. While I was having the miscarriage. He's been sleeping with someone named Bethany. The timeline was devastating. I found messages from the week I'd told him I was pregnant. While I was celebrating alone in the bathroom with a positive test, he was texting Bethany, complicated situation at home. Need to see you. Messages from the day of the miscarriage, can't meet tonight. Family emergency. But the next day, tomorrow? I really need you right now. He needed her. Not me. I was the family emergency and she was his comfort. I'm going to kill him, Tamara said. Her voice was flat and serious. I'm actually going to murder your husband. No weapons, remember? I tried to joke but it came out choked. We don't want weapons in this story. Then I'll use my bare hands. I kept scrolling. There were photos. Nothing explicit, thankfully, but pictures of them at restaurants, at a park, at what looked like someone's apartment. Bethany was pretty in a generic way. Blonde hair, nice smile, the kind of woman who probably never forgot to return her shopping cart. The most recent messages were from yesterday before the dinner. Can I see you tonight? He texted. Trevor, I thought you said you were going to tell her soon. I can't keep being the other woman. I know. I will. I promise. After the family dinner tonight, I'll figure out the right time. But there'd been no messages after the dinner. After my revelation about Patricia's affair. After I'd left. I wondered if he'd gone to Bethany last night instead of trying harder to find me. You need to screenshot all of this, Tamara said. Send it to yourself. This is evidence for the divorce. The divorce. The word felt huge and final. But also right. I wasn't sure before, I admitted. About leaving. Part of me thought maybe we could fix things. But this. I gestured at the tablet. You can't fix this. You can't fix someone who's been lying to your face for over a year while pretending to be sad about your miscarriage. No, you can't. Tamara stood up and started pulling clothes from my closet more aggressively. Get what you need. We're getting you out of here. Then we're finding you the best divorce lawyer in the city, and we're taking this man for everything he's worth. I started screenshotting messages. There were dozens. Hundreds probably. But I didn't need them all. Just enough to prove the affair. Just enough to show who Trevor really was behind his concerned husband act. I found my important documents in the desk drawer. Birth certificate, social security card, the deed to my car. I packed up my laptop and chargers. I took my favorite books from the shelf and the framed photo of me and Rochelle from last Christmas. I left the wedding photos on the wall. Let Trevor look at them and remember what he destroyed. We were loading the last box into Tamara's car when my phone rang. Trevor. Don't answer it, Tamara advised. But I did. I needed to hear his voice now that I knew the truth. Simone, where are you? Are you at the apartment? I came to get my things. Your things? What are you talking about? You're coming back, right? We can work through this. How long have you been sleeping with Bethany? The silence on the other end of the line was answer enough. How did you? He started. Your tablet. You left it on the nightstand. Not very careful for someone keeping secrets. Simone, let me explain. Explain what? That you've been cheating on me for over a year? That you were planning to leave me anyway? That while I was losing our baby, you were texting another woman? It's not like that. Bethany doesn't mean anything. It's just, it got complicated. I'm not complicated, Trevor. I'm your wife. Or I was. I watched Tamara load the last box into her trunk. You'll be hearing from my lawyer. Wait, don't do this. Let's talk face to face. You're overreacting. I found over a year of messages. I found plans for a future that didn't include me. I found evidence that while I was grieving alone, you were comforting yourself with someone else. That's not overreacting. That's just reacting. My mother was right about you, he said, and his voice turned mean. You're selfish. You always have been. Everything has to be about you and your feelings. There it was. The real Trevor finally showing himself. Goodbye, Trevor. I hung up and got into Tamara's car. She started the engine and pulled into traffic. You okay? She asked. No, I said honestly. But I will be. We drove back to Rochelle's apartment in silence. I watched the city pass by the window. The streets I'd driven down as Trevor's wife. Soon I'd be driving them as myself again. Just Simone. Not Trevor's wife, not Patricia's daughter-in-law, not the woman who'd failed to stay pregnant. Just me. The idea was terrifying and liberating at the same time. Natasha Robinson's office was on the 15th floor of a glass building in the financial district. The waiting room had comfortable blue chairs and abstract art on the walls. I sat there with my folder of screenshots and tried not to feel like I was making a huge mistake. She's the best, Tamara had said when she'd recommended Natasha. She helped my cousin Gloria get away from her terrible ex. Gloria ended up with the house and half his retirement. Natasha doesn't mess around. The receptionist called my name. Ms. Robinson will see you now. Natasha Robinson was a woman in her 50s with silver hair cut and a sharp bob and eyes that missed nothing. She wore a green suit that probably cost more than my car payment, and when she shook my hand, her grip was firm. Tell me everything, she said, gesturing to a chair across from her desk. So I did. The miscarriage. The dinner. Patricia's announcement. My retaliation. Finding out about Trevor's affair. The plan he'd had to leave me anyway. She listened without interrupting, taking notes on a yellow legal pad. When I finished, she sat back in her chair and studied me. First, let me say I'm sorry for your loss. The miscarriage, I mean. That's not easy and you deserved better support. Thank you. Second, your husband is an idiot. She said it matter-of-factly, like she was commenting on the weather. Not only did he have an affair, he documented it extensively on a device he left lying around. From a legal standpoint, this makes my job much easier. Really? Really? You're in a no-fault state, which means you don't need to prove wrongdoing to get a divorce. But having proof of infidelity helps significantly when it comes to property division and spousal support. She flipped through her notes. How long have you been married? 5 years. Do you own property together? The apartment is rented. We have a joint checking account and savings. He has a retirement account through his job. I have one through mine. Any significant assets? Cars? Investments? We each have our own cars. There's about $30,000 in savings. That's supposed to be for a down payment on a house. I paused. He handles most of the finances. I put money into the joint account every month, but he pays the bills. Natasha's eyes sharpened. So you don't have complete visibility into your joint finances? I can access the account, but I don't usually look that closely. He said he'd take care of it. Let me guess. He made more money than you. Yes. About $20,000 more per year. And he made sure you knew that? I thought about all the times Trevor had made comments about paying for dinner or saying we could afford something because of his salary. How he'd acted like the money in our joint account was really his money that he was generously sharing. Yes, I admitted. He did. Classic financial control. Natasha made another note. Here's what we're going to do. First, you're going to get me full access to all joint accounts. I want to see every transaction for the past 2 years. Second, you're going to open your own account at a different bank and move half of whatever's in savings into it. That's your money. You earned it. Can I do that? Just take it? It's joint money. You have every right. And trust me, if you don't secure it now, it has a way of disappearing during divorce proceedings. She pulled out a form and slid it across the desk. This is a retainer agreement. My rate is $300 per hour. I require a $5,000 retainer to start. Is that manageable? My stomach dropped. $5,000. I had maybe $800 in my personal checking account. Natasha must have seen my face because she softened slightly. I have payment plans available. And trust me, by the time we're done, your husband will be paying most of my fees. How does that work? If we can prove he's been hiding assets or wasting marital funds on his affair, the court can order him to pay your attorney fees. Those hotel rooms he took Bethany to? Those dinners? If he paid for them with joint money, that's what we call dissipation of marital assets. The court doesn't like that. I thought about all those receipts I'd found in Patricia's car. All those hotels and dinners. Had Trevor been doing the same thing? How do I find out if he used our money for the affair? We subpoena bank records, credit card statements. Once we file for divorce, we're entitled to full financial disclosure. If he's been hiding anything, we'll find it. She leaned forward. Here's my question for you, Simone. What do you want out of this divorce? I want out. That's all. I just want to be free of him and his family. Understandable. But let's be strategic. You've been married 5 years. You've contributed financially to the household. You've suffered emotional distress from his infidelity during an already traumatic time. You're entitled to compensation for that. I don't want his money. I don't want anything from him. I hear that a lot from clients at the beginning. Natasha's voice was kind but firm. But this isn't about revenge or being petty. This is about ensuring you have the resources to rebuild your life. You're going to need first and last month's rent for your own place. You might need therapy to process all this trauma. You're going to need to replace household items you leave behind. Money isn't everything, but it's not nothing either. I thought about Rochelle's lumpy sofa bed. About starting over from scratch. Okay, I said. What would you recommend? Fight for your fair share of the marital assets. That's half the savings at minimum. Push for him to pay your legal fees. If we can prove financial misconduct, ask for a larger share of the assets as compensation. And make it clear that you're not interested in reconciliation or mediation. Clean break, fair settlement, done. No contact with him at all? All communication goes through attorneys. It keeps things civil and creates a paper trail. She pulled out another form. This is a motion for temporary orders. We'll file it with the divorce petition. It prohibits either of you from dissipating assets, requires continued payment of joint bills, and establishes temporary living arrangements. Basically, it maintains the status quo until the divorce is final. My hand shook slightly as I signed the retainer agreement. $5,000. I didn't have to end a marriage I wished I'd never started. One more thing, Natasha said as I stood to leave. Be prepared for this to get ugly. Trevor's going to be angry. His family is going to pressure you. They might try to paint you as the villain for exposing Patricia's affair. Don't engage. Don't defend yourself to them. Let me handle all of that. What if he shows up at my sister's apartment? Document everything. If he threatens you or makes you feel unsafe, call the police and get a restraining order. I mean it, Simone. Some men don't handle rejection well, especially when they're the ones who got caught. That thought followed me all the way back to Rochelle's apartment. Trevor had never been violent, but I'd also never really stood up to him before. I didn't know what he was capable of when he felt cornered. I stopped at the bank on the way home and opened a new account. Then I went to the ATM and transferred $15,000 from our joint savings. My hands shook as I hit the confirm button. That money represented 2 years of my paychecks. 2 years of the raises I'd earned and the overtime I'd worked. Trevor might see it as theft, but Natasha was right. It was mine. My phone buzzed with a notification. A text from an unknown number. This is Bethany. We should talk. I stared at the message for a long moment. Then I blocked the number without responding. Whatever Bethany wanted to say, I didn't want to hear it. She'd known Trevor was married. She participated in the affair willingly. I had no interest in her excuses or explanations. Back at Rochelle's apartment, I found my sister sitting at the kitchen table with a bottle of wine and 2 glasses already poured. Tamara texted me about the lawyer, she said. How did it go? Good, I think. Scary but good. I took the glass of wine she offered and sat across from her. I'm really doing this. I'm getting divorced. How do you feel about that? I thought about the question. Really thought about it. Relieved, I said finally. Sad. Angry. Free. All of it at once. That's normal. Rochelle took a sip of her wine. You know, I never liked Trevor. You didn't? Nope. He was always so dismissive of you. Like you were there to support him, but your own dreams and feelings were inconvenient. Why didn't you say anything? She gave me a long look. Would you have listened? Probably not. I'd been so invested in making the marriage work, in being the good wife, that I'd ignored every red flag waving in my face. His mother texted me, Rochelle said. Patricia. She wants to know where you are. Says she needs to apologize to you in person. She doesn't want to apologize. She wants to manipulate me into keeping her secret. That's what I figured. I told her to lose my number. Thank you. We sat in comfortable silence for a while, drinking wine and watching the sun set through the window. In the park below, kids were playing on the swings, their laughter floating up through the evening air. I'm proud of you, Rochelle said quietly. For standing up for yourself. For leaving. For taking your money and hiring a lawyer. Mom would be proud too. Our mother had passed away 3 years ago after a brief illness. She'd been a strong woman, a single mother who'd raised us alone after our father left. She taught us to be independent, to never settle, to know our worth. I'd forgotten those lessons somewhere along the way. Let them get buried under the weight of trying to be someone Trevor would love, someone Patricia would approve of, someone who fit into their perfect family picture. I'm going to find my own apartment, I said suddenly. I can't live on your couch forever. And I need my own space. Somewhere that's just mine. Take your time. You're welcome here as long as you need. But I knew I needed to start building my new life. The life I should have been living all along. I found an apartment 2 weeks later. It was a small 1-bedroom in an older building, nothing fancy, but it had hardwood floors and big windows that let in plenty of light. The landlord was a kind older woman named Mrs. Chin who didn't ask many questions when I explained I was separating from my husband. First and last month's rent, she said, handing me the keys. Trash goes out on Tuesdays. Mail comes around too. If anything breaks, call me and I'll get it fixed. Just like that, I had my own place. Somewhere Trevor had never been. Somewhere his mother would never criticize. Somewhere I could start over. Tamara and Rochelle helped me move in. We made a day of it, painting the bedroom a soft blue and hanging curtains I'd picked out myself. I bought a bed from a furniture store, nothing expensive, but it was mine. To new beginnings, Rochelle said that night, raising her glass of wine in my mostly empty living room. We were sitting on a blanket on the floor because I didn't have furniture yet, eating pizza from paper plates. To new beginnings, Tamara and I echoed. How are you feeling? Tamara asked. Really? I thought about it. Lighter. Scared. Free. It's strange, waking up without the weight of trying to save a marriage that was already dead. Have you heard from Trevor? Only through the lawyers. Natasha's been handling everything. I took a bite of pizza. He's fighting the asset division. Says I'm not entitled to half the savings because he earned most of it. That's ridiculous, Rochelle said. That's what Natasha said. She's pushing back hard. We have a court date next month for the preliminary hearing. What I didn't tell them was how many times I'd almost called Trevor. How sometimes in the middle of the night I'd reach for my phone, wanting to hear his voice, wanting to pretend everything was okay. 5 years was a long time to be with someone. Even a bad someone. The habits were hard to break. But then I'd remember the messages to Bethany. The way he dismissed my miscarriage. The look on his face at that dinner when he'd sided with his mother over me. And I'd put the phone down and go back to sleep. You should start therapy, Tamara said. She'd been saying this for weeks. Not couples therapy. Just for you. To process everything. I know. I'd been avoiding it. Therapy felt like admitting I wasn't handling things on my own. But the truth was I wasn't handling things. I was just getting through each day 1 hour at a time. I can give you some names, Tamara continued. People who specialize in divorce and grief. The miscarriage is part of this too, Simone. You need to deal with that. She was right. I hadn't really grieved the baby. There hadn't been time, not with everything else falling apart. But sometimes when I was alone, I'd think about the future I'd imagined. The nursery I'd started planning in my head. The baby shower I'd never have. The first words I'd never hear. Okay, I said. Give me the names. I'll call someone. The therapist I ended up with was a woman named Dr. Helen Foster. She was in her 60s with gray hair and a gentle voice, and her office smelled like lavender and old books. Tell me why you're here, she said in our first session. So I did. The whole story from the beginning. The marriage that had started with hope and ended with betrayal. The miscarriage that no one had let me mourn. The family dinner that had exploded my entire life. The affair I discovered too late. Dr. Foster listened without judgment. That's a lot of loss all at once. The baby. The marriage. The family you thought you had. How are you coping? I don't know if I am coping. I'm just moving forward. One foot in front of the other. That's a form of coping. But let me ask you something. When do you let yourself feel everything you've lost? Never, I realized. I'd been so focused on being strong, on handling the logistics of divorce and moving and lawyering, that I hadn't stopped to actually feel any of it. I can't, I admitted. If I start crying, I'm afraid I won't stop. Then cry here. That's what this space is for. You don't have to be strong every moment of every day. You're allowed to fall apart sometimes. So I did. I cried for the baby I'd lost. For the marriage I'd tried so hard to save. For the years I'd wasted trying to be good enough for people who would never appreciate me. I cried until my throat hurt and my eyes were swollen and my head pounded. And Dr. Foster sat there through all of it, passing me tissues and saying nothing, just letting me feel everything I'd been holding back. When I finally stopped, I felt wrung out but somehow lighter. Better? She asked. A little. Good. Now let's talk about what comes next. Not the divorce proceedings or the legal stuff. I mean, who do you want to be on the other side of all this? It was a question I hadn't considered. I'd been so focused on escaping Trevor that I hadn't thought about what I was escaping toward. I want to be myself again, I said slowly. The person I was before I met Trevor. Or maybe a new version of her. Someone who doesn't shrink to fit other people's expectations. What did you used to do before Trevor? What made you happy? I used to paint. Watercolors mostly. Little landscapes and nature scenes. I was never great at it, but I loved it. When did you stop? Trevor said it was a waste of time. That I should focus on my career if I wanted a hobby. So I did. I stopped painting and started working longer hours. Do you still have your paints? They're in a box somewhere. Probably dried out by now. Buy new ones. What? Buy new paints. This week. And paint something. It doesn't have to be good. It just has to be yours. So I did. I went to an art supply store and bought watercolors and paper and brushes. It felt indulgent and necessary at the same time. That night, sitting on my apartment floor with newspaper spread out under me, I painted. It was terrible. The colors bled together in ways they shouldn't. The perspective was all wrong. But I didn't care. For 2 hours, I forgot about Trevor and lawyers and family drama. I just painted. When I showed Dr. Foster the painting at our next session, she smiled. How did it feel? Like coming home. Good. Keep doing things that feel like coming home. Over the next few weeks, I started building a life that was just mine. I joined a painting class at the community center on Thursday nights. I started going to a yoga studio near my apartment. I reconnected with friends I'd lost touch with during the marriage. Rochelle and Tamara were there every step of the way. They helped me pick out furniture for my apartment. They came over for impromptu dinners. They let me vent when I needed to and distracted me when I needed that instead. You're different, Rochelle observed one night. We were sitting on my new couch, watching a movie on her laptop because I didn't have a TV yet. You're more, you. Is that good? It's great. You're not performing anymore. You're just being. She was right. For so long I'd been performing the role of Trevor's wife. The dutiful daughter-in-law. The perfect hostess at dinner parties. The woman who never made waves. Now I was just Simone. And it turned out Simone was someone I actually liked. I got a notification on my phone. An email from Natasha, hearing scheduled for March 15th. Trevor's attorney is pushing for reconciliation counseling. I'm pushing back. Stay strong. Reconciliation counseling. As if counseling could fix a year-long affair and a fundamental lack of respect. He's still trying to get you back, Tamara said, reading over my shoulder. He doesn't want me back. He just doesn't want to lose. There's a difference. And there was. I could see it now, the way I hadn't been able to before. Trevor didn't love me. He loved having a wife who made him look good, who took care of him, who asked for nothing in return. But that woman was gone. And she wasn't coming back. My phone buzzed again. This time it was a text from an unknown number. "This is Robert, Trevor's father. I wanted to reach out and apologize for Patricia's behavior at dinner. You didn't deserve that. I also wanted you to know that Patricia and I are separated. Thank you for telling me the truth even though it hurt. I hope you're doing well." I stared at the message for a long moment. Then I typed back, "Thank you for reaching out. I'm sorry you're going through this too. Take care of yourself." It was strange receiving kindness from Trevor's family. But Robert had always been decent. He'd been betrayed too in his own way. We were both collateral damage in other people's selfishness. I showed the message to Rochelle and Tamara. "That's big of him," Rochelle said. "To reach out like that. Do you think Patricia knows he contacted you?" Tamara asked. "Probably not. He said they're separated. She's probably still living in her world where she's the victim and I'm the villain." "Let her live there," Rochelle said firmly. "You don't need to worry about Patricia anymore. She's not your problem." She was right. Patricia wasn't my problem. Trevor wasn't my problem. The only person I needed to worry about now was myself. That night, after Rochelle and Tamara left, I stood in my little apartment and looked around. It wasn't much yet. I still needed a dining table and a dresser and about 1,000 other things. But it was mine. Every piece of furniture, every painting on the wall, every choice about where things went. For the first time in years, I felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. I should have known Trevor would show up eventually. I'd been living in my new apartment for 3 weeks when the buzzer rang at 8 in the evening. "Who is it?" I asked through the intercom. "It's me. We need to talk." Trevor's voice sent a cold shock through my system. I looked down at what I was wearing. Red sweatpants and an old college t-shirt. Paint smudges on my hands from the evening class I'd just gotten back from. "We can talk through our lawyers," I said. "Please, Simone. Just 5 minutes. Face to face." I should have said no. Dr. Foster had warned me about this. Natasha had been explicit in her instructions not to engage with Trevor directly. But some small part of me, the part that had loved him once, wanted closure. 5 minutes, I said and buzzed him up. He looked terrible. His hair was messy, his shirt wrinkled. There were dark circles under his eyes like he hadn't been sleeping. Part of me felt satisfied seeing him suffer. Part of me felt guilty for feeling satisfied. "Can I come in?" he asked. I stepped aside and let him into my small apartment. He looked around, taking in my second-hand furniture and the paintings I'd hung on the walls. "So this is where you've been hiding," he said. "I'm not hiding. I'm living my life." He turned to face me. "We need to talk about the divorce. Your lawyer is being unreasonable." "My lawyer is protecting my interests. That's her job." "Half the savings? Attorney's fees? You're trying to take me for everything I have." "I'm asking for what I'm legally entitled to. That money is mine too, Trevor. I worked for it. I made more than you. You wouldn't have saved that much if it wasn't for me." There it was. The financial superiority he'd always held over my head. "And you wouldn't have had a clean house or home-cooked meals or someone to handle your dry cleaning and remember your mother's birthday if it wasn't for me. Marriage isn't just about money. So now you want to be compensated for being a wife? That's not how it works. Actually, that's exactly how it works. Community property state, remember? Everything we earned during the marriage belongs to both of us." His jaw tightened. "You're being vindictive. This is about getting revenge for the affair. This is about getting what's fair. The affair is just what finally opened my eyes to how one-sided this marriage always was." "One-sided?" His voice rose. "I gave you everything. A nice apartment. Vacations. I took care of you. You took care of yourself and I happened to live in the same space. There's a difference." He started pacing my small living room. "This is insane. We can work this out. Come to counseling with me. We can fix this." "I don't want to fix it. I want out." "Because of Bethany? That was a mistake. It's over. I ended it." "You ended it because you got caught, not because you wanted to. And it's not just about Bethany. It's about everything. The way you treated my miscarriage like an inconvenience. The way you always took your mother's side. The way you made me feel like I should be grateful you married me. I never said that. You didn't have to. It was in every comment about money, every time you rolled your eyes when I talked about my job, every time you let your mother criticize me without defending me." Trevor stopped pacing and looked at me. Really looked at me. "When did you become so difficult?" "When I realized I didn't have to be easy anymore." His expression shifted. The pleading look was gone, replaced by something colder. "You're going to regret this. You're throwing away 5 years of marriage over nothing." "Over nothing?" You had a year-long affair. That's not nothing. Compared to what we had. Yes, it's nothing. You're being dramatic. I'm being honest, finally. About how unhappy I was. About how small you made me feel. About how I was just playing a role in your life and you never bothered to know the real me. The real you. He laughed, but there was no humor in it. The real you is sitting here in a tiny apartment feeling sorry for yourself. The real you couldn't even stay pregnant. The words hit like a physical blow. I felt my face go hot, then cold. Get out. Simone. Get out of my apartment right now. I didn't mean. Yes, you did. That's who you really are. That's who you've always been. Someone who uses my pain against me when you don't get your way. He stood there for a moment, maybe realizing he'd gone too far. I'm sorry. That was out of line. Your 5 minutes are up. Leave. We're not done talking about this. Yes, we are. Anything else you want to say, you can say through your lawyer. He walked to the door, then turned back. My mother was right about you. You're selfish. You destroyed my family's dinner, destroyed my parents' marriage, and now you're trying to destroy me financially. All because you can't handle that I made one mistake. 1 year-long mistake. And I didn't destroy your parents' marriage. Your mother did that herself. Just like you destroyed ours. He left without another word, slamming the door behind him. I stood in my apartment, shaking. Not from fear but from anger. The way he'd thrown the miscarriage in my face. The casual cruelty of it. I called Natasha immediately. He showed up at my apartment, I told her. And he said some things. About the miscarriage. Trying to hurt me. Are you okay? I'm angry. He used my pain against me. That's good to know. It shows his character. If he tries to contact you again, don't engage. Document everything. Save any messages he sends. If he shows up again, call the police. Do you think he will? Depends on how desperate he gets. Men like Trevor, who are used to being in control, they don't handle it well when they lose that control. Just be careful. After we hung up, I poured myself a glass of wine and sat on my couch. My hands were still shaking. My phone buzzed. A text from Trevor. I'm sorry about what I said. That was wrong. But please reconsider the divorce. We can work through this. I didn't respond. Instead, I took a screenshot and sent it to Natasha, then blocked his number. Another text came through, this time from Patricia. My son is destroyed because of you. I hope you're happy with yourself. You've ruined this family. Screenshot. Block. Then Nathan. Trevor came by my place tonight. He's a mess. Whatever you're doing to him, stop. He doesn't deserve this. Screenshot. Block. It was like they coordinated an attack. All of them reaching out at once, trying to wear me down, trying to make me doubt myself. But I was done doubting myself. I called Rochelle. Trevor showed up, I told her. He said horrible things. And now his family is texting me. I'm coming over. You don't have to. I'm already getting my keys. She showed up 15 minutes later with Tamara. They'd been having dinner together when I called and had immediately left to come to my place. What did he say? Tamara asked. I told them. About the financial accusations, the attempt at reconciliation, and finally, the comment about not being able to stay pregnant. I'm going to kill him, Rochelle said. I'm actually going to. No weapons, remember? I tried to joke, but it came out hollow. Then I'll use harsh language. She hugged me hard. He's a terrible human being. You know that, right? What he said, that's not about you. That's about him trying to hurt you because he knows he's lost. I know. But it still hurt. Of course it hurt. It was meant to. That's what abusers do when they lose control. They try to regain it through cruelty. I'd never thought of Trevor as abusive. He'd never hit me, never raised his voice much. But maybe abuse came in different forms. The financial control. The dismissal of my feelings. The way he'd used my deepest pain against me tonight. I blocked all their numbers, I said. Trevor, Patricia, and Nathan. I'm done trying to explain myself to people who won't listen. Good, Tamara said firmly. You don't owe them anything. Not explanations, not apologies, nothing. We spent the rest of the evening together, the three of us on my couch, watching bad reality TV and eating ice cream from the container. They didn't leave until after midnight, making me promise to call if anything else happened. That night, lying in my bed in my own apartment, I thought about what Trevor had said. About me being dramatic. About throwing away 5 years over nothing. But those 5 years hadn't been wasted. They'd taught me who I didn't want to be. They'd shown me what I wouldn't accept anymore. They'd prepared me for this moment when I could finally choose myself. The next morning, I woke up to an email from Natasha. Trevor's attorney has proposed a settlement. He's offering to split the savings 60/40 in his favor and wants you to waive attorney's fees. My recommendation, reject it. We can do better. I replied immediately, reject it. Let's go to court if we have to. Trevor had tried to intimidate me into backing down. He tried cruelty. He tried manipulation. But all he'd done was strengthen my resolve. I wasn't backing down. Not now. Not ever. The preliminary hearing was scheduled for a Monday morning in mid-March. I wore a blue dress and borrowed a blazer from Tamara. Natasha had told me appearance mattered in court, even though this was just a procedural hearing. Judges are human, she'd said. They form opinions based on more than just facts. Look professional, composed, and dignified. Trevor was already there when I arrived, sitting with his attorney, a thin man in an expensive gray suit named Gerald Mitchum. Trevor wouldn't look at me. Good. I didn't want to look at him either. All rise. Judge Patricia Morrison was a black woman in her 50s with sharp eyes and no-nonsense demeanor. She reviewed the case file briefly, then looked up at both attorneys. This is a preliminary hearing for the divorce petition filed by Simone Jefferson against Trevor Jefferson. Mr. Mitchum, I understand you're representing the respondent. Yes, Your Honor. And Ms. Robinson is representing the petitioner. Let's start with the assets in dispute. Ms. Robinson? Natasha stood. Your Honor, we're asking for an equal division of all marital assets, which includes approximately $30,000 in joint savings, 2 vehicles and various personal property. We're also requesting that Mr. Jefferson pay petitioner's attorney fees given evidence of financial misconduct during the marriage. Financial misconduct? Yes, Your Honor. We have evidence that Mr. Jefferson spent marital funds on an extramarital affair over the course of approximately 14 months. Hotel rooms, dinners, gifts, all charged to joint credit cards. Judge Morrison's expression didn't change, but I saw her eyes sharpen. Mr. Mitchum? Your Honor, my client admits there was a brief indiscretion, but characterizing it as financial misconduct is excessive. The amounts in question are minimal, and my client was the primary earner in the marriage. How minimal? Gerald shuffled some papers. Approximately $8,000 over the course of the affair. $8,000 of marital funds spent on an affair is not minimal, Mr. Mitchum. But we'll address that in detail at the full hearing. What's your client's position on the asset division? Mr. Jefferson feels that a 60-40 split is more appropriate given his higher earnings during the marriage. Did Mrs. Jefferson work during the marriage? Yes, but did she contribute to the household financially? Yes, Your Honor, but not at the same level as. This is a community property state, Mr. Mitchum. Unless you can demonstrate that Mrs. Jefferson somehow contributed less to the marriage than her financial input would suggest, I'm inclined to order an equal division. Do you have evidence to the contrary? No, Your Honor. Then we'll proceed with the assumption of equal division pending the full hearing. Judge Morrison made a note. Now, Ms. Robinson, you mentioned attorney fees. On what grounds? On the grounds that Mr. Jefferson's misconduct necessitated this divorce and his dissipation of marital assets has made it necessary for Mrs. Jefferson to incur legal expenses to protect her interests. Mr. Jefferson could argue that Mrs. Jefferson's actions at a family dinner precipitated the marriage breakdown. So they were going to bring that up. I'd known they would. Natasha was ready. Your Honor, Mrs. Jefferson revealed information about a family member's affair only after that family member publicly announced Mrs. Jefferson's recent miscarriage without her consent. She was defending herself from a violation of her privacy regarding a deeply personal medical situation. Judge Morrison looked at me directly for the first time. Her expression softened slightly. Is that accurate, Mrs. Jefferson? Your mother-in-law announced your miscarriage publicly? Yes, Your Honor. My voice came out steadier than I felt. At a family dinner in front of 15 people. I told no one about it because I was still processing the loss. And you retaliated by revealing information about her personal life? Yes, Your Honor. In the moment, it felt like the only way to make her understand how violated I felt. Judge Morrison nodded slowly. I'm not here to judge the appropriateness of your actions at a family dinner, Mrs. Jefferson. But I will say that your mother-in-law's behavior was deeply inappropriate. Mr. Mitchum, your client's mother created the situation that led to this confrontation. I'll take that into consideration when deciding the attorney's fees question. Your Honor, we'd also like to request reconciliation counseling, Gerald said. My client is hopeful the marriage can be saved. Mrs. Jefferson, are you interested in reconciliation? Judge Morrison asked. No, Your Honor. I'm not. Mr. Mitchum, your client can't force reconciliation. If Mrs. Jefferson wants a divorce, she's entitled to one. This is a no-fault state. Judge Morrison closed the file. Here's my temporary order. Neither party is to dissipate any remaining marital assets. Joint accounts are to remain frozen except for ongoing household expenses. The $30,000 in savings is to remain untouched until the final hearing. Mr. Jefferson is to maintain health insurance coverage for Mrs. Jefferson if she was covered under his policy. Both parties are to have no contact except through attorneys. Full hearing is scheduled for May 8th. At that time, we'll address the final division of assets and the question of attorney fees. Any questions? No, Your Honor, both attorneys said. Then we're adjourned. As I stood to leave, I felt Trevor's eyes on me. I didn't turn around. Didn't give him the satisfaction of knowing I'd noticed. Outside the courtroom, Natasha walked with me to the parking garage. That went well, she said. Judge Morrison is fair, and she clearly wasn't impressed with the way Trevor's family treated you. The temporary order is exactly what we wanted. What about the attorney fees? She didn't rule on them yet, but the fact that she even mentioned the dinner situation in Trevor's family's favor suggests she's sympathetic to your position. At the full hearing, we'll present all the evidence of the affair and the money he spent. I'm confident we'll get a favorable ruling. After Natasha left, I sat in my car for a few minutes, letting the reality of what had just happened sink in. We'd been in front of a judge. My marriage was being officially dissolved, bit by bit, hearing by hearing. My phone buzzed. An email from an unknown address. The subject line read, "You should know the truth." I almost deleted it without reading. But something made me click. Dear Simone, you don't know me, but my name is Diane Chin. I worked with Trevor at his company until about 3 months ago. I'm reaching out because I think you should know that Bethany isn't the only affair Trevor has had. There were at least 2 others that I know of during your marriage. One was with a woman named Melissa who worked in accounting. That lasted about 6 months 2 years ago. The other was with an intern named Sophie last summer. I'm telling you this because you deserve to know the full truth about who you were married to. I'm sorry if this hurts, but I thought you should have all the information. You can verify this through company email records if your lawyer subpoenas them. The dates and times are all documented because some of these affairs happen during work hours. I hope you find peace in whatever comes next. Sincerely, Diane. I read the email 3 times, my hands shaking harder with each pass. 2 other affairs. At least. That meant Bethany was just the one I'd found. There had been others. Multiple others. My entire marriage had been a lie. I forwarded the email to Natasha immediately with a message. Just received this. Is this something we can use? Her reply came within minutes. Absolutely. This is huge. If we can subpoena company records and verify these affairs, it demonstrates a pattern of misconduct that goes way beyond one mistake. This strengthens our case significantly. Can you get more information from this, Diane? I replied to Diane's email. Thank you for reaching out. Would you be willing to speak with my attorney and provide more details? Any information you have would be helpful. Her response came an hour later. Yes. I left the company because of how toxic the environment was. Trevor wasn't the only one having affairs, but he was one of the most blatant about it. I'll speak with your attorney. He should be held accountable. That evening, I sat in Dr. Foster's office and told her everything. The hearing. The email. The revelation that Trevor's betrayal was so much worse than I'd known. How do you feel? She asked. Angry. Relieved. Vindicated. Like I'm not crazy for leaving. You were never crazy for leaving. But I understand the feeling. Having external validation of your decision can be powerful. I keep thinking about all the times he made me feel like I was overreacting. All the times I questioned my own judgment. And he was lying the entire time. That's gaslighting. Making you doubt your own reality. It's a form of emotional abuse. There was that word again. Abuse. I was starting to accept that's what my marriage had been. Not the dramatic, obvious kind that showed up in movies, but the quiet, insidious kind that made me disappear bit by bit until I almost didn't recognize myself. What now? I asked. Now you keep moving forward. You've already done the hardest part. You left. You're building a new life. You're standing up for yourself in court. Everything from here is just details. But the details felt overwhelming. The waiting for the final hearing. The discovery of each new betrayal. The process of untangling my life from Trevor's. I'm tired, I admitted. I'm tired of being strong. I'm tired of fighting. I just want it to be over. That's understandable. But Simone, you're not just fighting. You're building. Every day you wake up in your own apartment, go to your painting class, spend time with people who actually love you, you're building a life that's authentically yours. The fighting is just clearing away the rubble so you have room to build. I like that image. Not fighting for the sake of it, but fighting to make space for something better. That night I painted. Not anything specific, just colors on paper. Blues and greens and purples flowing together. It wasn't good or bad. It was just mine. And somehow that was enough. Spring arrived slowly, then all at once. The trees outside my apartment building started budding. The park filled with people again. And I started to feel like maybe I could breathe properly for the first time in months. Work had been my refuge through everything. I was a project manager for a marketing firm, and I'd thrown myself into it with renewed energy. The focus required for managing clients and timelines left no room for thinking about Trevor or the divorce. My boss, Angela, called me into her office on a Tuesday morning in April. She was a kind woman in her 40s who'd been patient with me through the worst of the separation. "Simone, I wanted to talk to you about the Henderson account." The Henderson account was our biggest client. A national retail chain that was launching a new product line. We'd been pitching for the contract for 6 months. Did we get it? We did. And I want you to be the lead project manager. I felt my eyes widen. Really? Really? You've been doing exceptional work lately. This project is worth about $200,000 to the firm, and the commission structure means you're looking at a significant bonus if you bring it in on time and under budget. How significant? About $15,000. $15,000. That was real money. That was first and last month's rent for a year. That was a car repair fund. That was security. "I won't let you down," I said. "I know you won't. Congratulations." I floated back to my desk and immediately texted Rochelle and Tamara. "I got the Henderson account. Big promotion." Their responses were immediate and enthusiastic. We made plans to celebrate that weekend. But first I had my Thursday painting class. I'd been going religiously for 2 months now, and I'd actually gotten better. My teacher, an older woman named Ms. Jean with silver hair and paint-stained fingers, had started using my landscapes as examples sometimes. "This is what I mean about letting the water do the work," she'd say, holding up one of my paintings. "See how Simone didn't try to control every detail? She let the paint flow naturally. It felt good to be good at something again. To have people appreciate my work without criticism or conditions." After class, a woman named Lakeisha who'd been coming for about a month approached me. "Your paintings are beautiful," she said. "Do you sell them?" "Oh no. I just do this for fun." "You should consider it. There's a community art fair next month. Local artists sell their work. I think you'd do well." I thought about it. The idea of strangers buying my paintings felt presumptuous, but also exciting. "Maybe," I said. "Let me think about it." That weekend, Rochelle and Tamara came over to celebrate my promotion. We ordered Chinese food and opened a bottle of champagne Tamara had brought. "To Simone," Rochelle said, raising her glass. "Who is kicking life's butt despite everything." "To Simone," Tamara echoed. We ate and laughed and talked about everything except Trevor. It was nice, having an evening that wasn't about the divorce or the betrayal or the pain. Just 3 friends enjoying each other's company. "Have you thought about dating?" Tamara asked eventually. "No. Not even a little bit." "Good. You shouldn't rush that. But eventually, when you're ready, you're going to find someone who deserves you. Or not. Maybe I'll just be single and happy." "That's allowed too," Rochelle said. "You don't need a man to be complete. You're pretty complete already." The thought of dating felt impossible. I couldn't imagine trusting someone again. Couldn't imagine letting someone into my space, my life, my heart. But Tamara was right. Eventually. Not now. My phone rang. "Natasha." "I hope I'm not interrupting," she said when I answered. "Not at all. What's up?" "We have a problem. Trevor's attorney filed a motion claiming you've been hiding assets. Specifically, the $15,000 you took from savings." "I didn't hide it. I opened my own account and transferred my half." "You told me to do that." "I know. And it's completely legal. But they're trying to paint it as you absconding with marital funds. It's a reach, but we need to respond formally. Can you come to my office tomorrow with your bank statements showing the account and the transfer?" "Yes, of course. Don't worry too much about this. It's a delay tactic. They know they're going to lose on the asset division, so they're trying to muddy the waters. But we'll shut it down quickly." After we hung up, I felt my good mood evaporate. Even now, even months later, Trevor was still trying to control the narrative. Still trying to make me the villain. "What was that about?" Rochelle asked. I explained the motion. "He's so petty," Tamara said. He cheated for years, but you're the bad guy for taking your own money? That's how men like Trevor operate, Rochelle said. They can't stand losing, so they'll do anything to regain control. Even if it's just controlling the story. The next day, I went to Natasha's office with all my documentation. She reviewed everything carefully. This is exactly what we need. The transfer happened after you filed for divorce, which means you were legally entitled to protect your assets. They have no case here. Will this delay the final hearing? Maybe by a week or two. But honestly, Simone, this motion is so frivolous that it might actually work in our favor. It makes Trevor look petty and vindictive. Judges don't like that. There's something else I wanted to talk to you about, I said. The woman who emailed me. Diane. Did you get a chance to talk to her? I did. She's willing to testify if needed. She has dates, times, and names. She even has some emails that were sent from company accounts that reference the affairs, though not explicitly. It's enough to establish a pattern. So what does that mean for the case? It means Trevor can't claim Bethany was a one-time mistake. It means we can argue for a larger share of the assets based on his chronic misconduct. It means we have leverage. I don't want to drag this out. I just want it to be over. I understand. But leverage means we can potentially negotiate a better settlement. Trevor might prefer that to having all of this come out in open court. You think he'd settle? If the alternative is public testimony about multiple affairs, including some that happened at work where he could potentially face professional consequences? Yes, I think he might. The idea of it actually ending soon made something in my chest loosen. For months I'd been living in this limbo. Not quite married, not quite divorced. Soon maybe I could just be free. What do you want me to do? I asked. Nothing yet. Let me reach out to Gerald and see if Trevor's willing to talk settlement now that we have this additional information. In the meantime, keep living your life. You're doing great. I left Natasha's office feeling cautiously hopeful. Maybe this would end without another court appearance. Maybe Trevor would finally see that fighting was pointless. That evening, I went to the art supply store and bought canvases. Real ones, not just paper. If I was going to sell my work at the art fair, I needed to create something worth selling. I painted late into the night. A landscape of the park near Rochelle's apartment. The one where I'd stood that first night after leaving Trevor, watching the cat walk across the grass. Where I'd felt that first spark of freedom. When I finished, I stepped back and looked at it. Really looked at it. It wasn't perfect. The perspective was still a little off, and some of the colors had bled in ways I hadn't intended. But it was mine. It was honest. It was real. And maybe that's all anything needed to be. Natasha called me 3 days later with news. Trevor wants to settle. Gerald reached out this morning. They're proposing a deal. My heart started pounding. What kind of deal? Equal split of all assets. He pays your attorney fees. Clean break, no ongoing support either way. He wants it over. Why the sudden change? I sent Gerald the information from Diane. Told him we have evidence of multiple affairs and we're prepared to subpoena company records. Trevor apparently doesn't want his employer knowing about his behavior. Seems he's up for a promotion and this could ruin it. Of course. It wasn't about making things right. It was about protecting himself. Do you recommend I take it? Yes. It's a fair deal. You get what you're entitled to, he pays for the legal mess he created, and you're done. No more court dates, no more waiting. You can move on with your life. Then I'll take it. I'll draw up the paperwork. We should be able to finalize everything within 2 weeks. 2 weeks. In 2 weeks I'd be divorced. Officially single. Free. I hung up and sat on my couch trying to process it. After months of fighting, it was just over. No dramatic final confrontation. No big courtroom scene. Just paperwork and signatures and the end of a chapter. I called Dr. Foster. How do you feel about the settlement? She asked. I don't know. Relieved? Anticlimactic? I thought I'd feel more. Something. Closure doesn't always feel how we expect it to. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's just the absence of noise rather than a definitive ending. I guess I thought there'd be more of a resolution. Like Trevor would finally understand what he did wrong or apologize or something. But you don't need his understanding or apology to move forward, do you? She was right. I didn't. I'd already moved forward. I had my apartment, my job promotion, my painting classes, my friends. Trevor's acknowledgement of his mistakes wouldn't change any of that. No, I said. I guess I don't. Then let this settlement be what it is. A legal ending to a relationship that emotionally ended a long time ago. You don't need his closure. You've already created your own. The papers arrived a week later. I read through them carefully. Equal division of the savings account. Trevor would pay all my attorney fees, which had totaled just over $8,000. We each kept our own vehicles and personal property. No alimony for either party. Clean break. I signed my name on the designated lines. Simone Jefferson. Soon to be Simone Walker again. I decided to go back to my maiden name. Jefferson had never really felt like mine anyway. The final court date was set for May 2nd. Just a formality where the judge would approve the settlement and declare us legally divorced. Rochelle and Tamara both came with me. Natasha met us at the courthouse. "This should be quick," she said. "Judge Morrison just needs to confirm both parties agree to the terms and that everything's in order." Trevor was already there with Gerald. He looked better than he had at the last hearing. Hair combed, suit pressed, like he'd pulled himself back together. He didn't look at me. "All rise for the Honorable Judge Morrison." We stood. The judge reviewed the settlement documents, asked a few clarifying questions, and then looked at both Trevor and me. "Mr. Jefferson, do you agree to the terms of this settlement?" "Yes, Your Honor." "Mrs. Jefferson?" "Yes, Your Honor." "Then by the power vested in me by the state, I declare your marriage legally dissolved. The settlement is approved and binding. You're both free to go." That was it. 20 seconds and 5 years of marriage were over. Outside the courthouse, Natasha shook my hand. "Congratulations. You're officially divorced." "Thank you. For everything. You did the hard work. I just made sure it was legal." She smiled. "Take care of yourself, Simone. You deserve good things." Rochelle hugged me hard. "How does it feel?" "Free," I said. And meant it. We went to lunch to celebrate. A nice restaurant downtown with white tablecloths and real champagne. Tamara insisted on paying. "To Simone Walker," she said, raising her glass. "May the next chapter be everything you deserve." "To new beginnings," Rochelle added. "To finding myself again," I said. We drank and ate and laughed. No one mentioned Trevor. He didn't deserve space in this moment. That evening, I went back to my apartment alone. I'd been living there for 3 months, but tonight it felt different. Tonight it wasn't just temporary housing during a separation. It was mine. My home. My space. I walked through the rooms, touching the furniture I'd chosen, the paintings I'd hung on the walls, the books on the shelf. Everything here was mine. Everything reflected who I actually was, not who I'd been trying to be for someone else. My phone buzzed. An email from the community art fair organizers. They'd accepted my application. I had a booth reserved for the fair next month. I pulled out the canvases I'd been working on. 6 landscapes, all of places that had meaning to me. The park near Rochelle's apartment. The coffee shop where I'd had my first session with Dr. Foster. The view from my apartment window. The art studio where I took classes. Each one a marker of my journey back to myself. I spent the evening framing them, getting them ready to sell. It felt strange, the idea of strangers buying these personal pieces. But also right. Letting go of them, sending them into the world, making room for new paintings and new memories. Around 10 there was a knock on my door. I looked through the peephole, expecting Rochelle or Tamara. But it was Robert, Trevor's father. I opened the door cautiously. "Robert." "Hi. Simone. I hope I'm not intruding. I wanted to stop by and see how you're doing." "I'm good. Today was the final court date. The divorce is official." He nodded. "I heard. Trevor told me about the settlement. It seems fair." "It is." We stood there awkwardly for a moment. "Can I come in?" he asked. "Just for a minute. I promise I'm not here to cause problems." I stepped aside and let him in. He looked around my apartment the same way Trevor had, but his expression was different. Softer. Approving. "You've made a nice home here," he said. "Thank you." He sat on my couch when I gestured to it. "I wanted to apologize to you. For Patricia's behavior at that dinner. For not defending you better when everything happened. For raising a son who doesn't know how to appreciate a good woman when he has one. You don't need to apologize for other people's choices." "Maybe not. But I'm sorry anyway." He looked tired. Older than I remembered. "Patricia and I are divorced now too. She's living with her sister. I'm in the house alone, trying to figure out what the next phase of my life looks like." "I'm sorry. I know that's hard." "It is. But it's also honest. I spent 30 years married to a woman who was unhappy and took it out on everyone around her. Now I get to figure out who I am without that weight." I understood that feeling. "Trevor's seeing a therapist," Robert continued. "He asked me to tell you that. Said he's working on himself. trying to understand why he did what he did. That's good. For him, I mean. I hope he finds what he's looking for. He wanted to reach out to you directly. To apologize. I told him you probably wouldn't want to hear from him. You're right. I don't. Robert nodded. I figured. But I wanted you to know anyway. That he's trying to be better, even if it's too late for your marriage. It's never too late to become a better person. I hope he does. But he needs to do it for himself, not for me. We talked for a few more minutes. Robert told me about his plans to travel, something Patricia had never wanted to do. About joining a book club, a real one this time. About learning to cook for himself instead of relying on takeout. When he left, he hugged me at the door. You're going to have a good life, Simone. I can tell. You're one of the strong ones. I wasn't sure about that. But maybe strength wasn't about never falling apart. Maybe it was about putting yourself back together afterward. That night, I slept better than I had in months. No anxious dreams about court dates or confrontations. No waking up at 3 in the morning worrying about what Trevor would do next. Just sleep. Deep and dreamless and free. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, I stood in front of my booth at the community art fair, adjusting the display one more time. My paintings were arranged on easels, each one priced between $50 and $200 depending on size. It felt presumptuous to charge that much, but Lakeisha had insisted. Your work is good, she'd said. Don't undersell yourself. The fair opened at 10. By noon I'd sold 3 paintings. By 3 I'd sold all 6 and taken commissions for 3 more. People actually wanted to buy my art. They liked what I'd created. These are beautiful, a woman in a maroon sundress said, looking at my work. There's something honest about them. Like you painted what you felt, not what you thought you should feel. That's exactly it, I told her. I'm learning to do that. To be honest. I sold her the painting of the park. The one from that first night with the cat and the streetlights and the feeling of freedom. When the fair ended, I packed up with a check for $800 in my pocket and a phone full of contact information from people who wanted to commission work. $800 from painting. From doing something I loved. You did it, Lakeisha said, stopping by my booth as I was packing up. Told you people would love your work. Thank you for convincing me to do this. That's what the art community is for. We lift each other up. That night, Rochelle and Tamara came over to celebrate. We ordered pizza and sat on my couch, eating and laughing and planning my next steps. You could do this full time, Tamara said. If you wanted. Quit the marketing job and just paint. I'm not ready for that. But maybe someday. For now, I like having both. The stability of the job and the freedom of the painting. Smart, Rochelle said. Build slowly. Don't rush it. My phone rang. An unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Hello? Simone? This is Diane Chin. The woman who emailed you about Trevor's affairs. Yes, I remember. Thank you for that, by the way. It helped with the divorce settlement. I'm glad. I'm calling because, well, Trevor got fired today. The company finally investigated some complaints about his behavior at work. Apparently your attorney's inquiry triggered a larger review. They found evidence of inappropriate relationships with subordinates and misuse of company resources. He's out. I felt a strange mix of emotions. Satisfaction that he was facing consequences. Relief that other women wouldn't have to deal with his behavior. But also a kind of sad closure. This was the final piece falling into place. How do you feel about that? Diane asked. Honestly, I feel like justice happened. Not because of me, but because he finally couldn't hide who he was anymore. Well, I thought you should know. Accountability matters. After we hung up, I told Rochelle and Tamara. Good, Rochelle said simply. He deserved it. I thought about the last 6 months. The divorce. The move. The therapy. The painting classes. The promotion at work. The art fair. Every single step forward I'd taken. Trevor losing his job didn't change any of that. His consequences were his own. I'd already moved on. That fall, I took a week off work and went on a solo trip. Somewhere I'd always wanted to go but Trevor had never been interested in. A cabin in the mountains with hiking trails and views that took my breath away. I brought my paints and spent the days hiking and the evenings painting what I'd seen. The way the light hit the mountains at sunset. The stream that ran behind the cabin. The wildflowers that still bloomed despite the cooling weather. One evening, sitting on the cabin's porch with a glass of wine and my paints, I realized I was happy. Not working toward happy or almost happy or happy despite everything. Just happy. The kind of happiness that didn't need qualifiers or explanations. The kind that just was. When I got back, there was a message from a small gallery downtown. They'd seen my work at the art fair and wanted to know if I'd be interested in a group show in January. 6 local artists, each with a small collection. I called them back immediately and said yes. The show opened on a Friday in January. Rochelle and Tamara came, of course. So did Lakeisha and Ms. Jean from my painting class. My boss Angela came with her husband. Dr. Foster even stopped by. My section featured 8 new paintings. Some were landscapes, but I'd also started doing portraits. Abstract ones, focusing on emotion rather than perfect representation. They were selling well. "You've really found your style," Ms. Jean said, studying one of my pieces. "This is beautiful work." "I feel like I'm finally painting myself," I told her. "Not what I think people want to see. Just what I see. That's when art becomes real. When it's honest." Near the end of the evening, a man approached me. He was tall, with kind eyes and an easy smile. He'd been looking at my paintings for a while. "These are remarkable," he said. "You have a real talent." "Thank you. I'm Marcus." He caught himself. "Sorry, that's probably forward. I'm not trying to hit on you. I just really like your work." I laughed. "It's okay. I'm Simone." We talked for a few minutes about art and painting and the creative process. He was a high school art teacher, he told me. He came to these shows to find new artists to show his students. "You mind if I take some photos of your work?" "For my class." "Not at all." He pulled out his phone and started photographing. "You know, we're always looking for guest speakers. People who can show students that art isn't just a hobby, it's a real thing you can build a life around. Would you ever be interested in talking to a class?" "Maybe. Yes. That sounds nice, actually." We exchanged numbers. Professional, friendly. No pressure, no expectations. After he left, Tamara sidled up next to me with a knowing look. "Don't," I said. "Don't what?" "I didn't say anything." "You're thinking something." "I'm thinking he seems nice. And he looked at your art the way a person should look at art. With real appreciation." "I'm not looking for anything right now." "I know. But maybe someday. When you're ready. It's okay to be open to possibilities." She was right. I wasn't ready now. But someday maybe I would be. Someday, when the wounds had fully healed and I'd grown even more into the person I was becoming, maybe I'd be ready to let someone in again. Or maybe not. Maybe I'd be perfectly happy alone with my art and my friends and my small, peaceful life. Either way was okay. A year after the divorce, I moved into a bigger apartment. Still nothing fancy, but 2 bedrooms this time. One for me, one I converted into a proper art studio. I hung my paintings on the walls and arranged my supplies in the closet. This was my space. My life. My terms. I hadn't seen or heard from Trevor in months. I assumed he'd moved on, was dealing with the consequences of his choices in his own way. Sometimes I wondered if he'd learned anything, if he'd grown at all. But mostly I didn't think about him. One evening, I was painting in my studio when my phone rang. "Rochelle." "Hey," I answered. "What's up?" "I just saw Patricia at the grocery store. She tried to talk to me." "What did she say?" "She asked about you. Said she'd been thinking about reaching out but wasn't sure if you'd want to hear from her." "I don't." "That's what I told her. But she wanted me to tell you she's sorry. For everything. She's been in therapy apparently. Working through her own issues. She said she realizes now how badly she treated you." I sat down on my studio stool. "That's good for her. I hope she finds peace." "You don't want to talk to her?" "No. I forgive her, I think. But that doesn't mean I need her in my life. Some people are meant to stay in the past. I think that's healthy." After we hung up, I thought about forgiveness. Real forgiveness, not the performative kind where you pretend everything's fine. Forgiveness that meant letting go of the anger without necessarily letting the person back into your life. I forgave Patricia for the dinner announcement. I forgave Trevor for the affairs and the lies. I forgave myself for staying longer than I should have, for making myself small, for losing myself in someone else's life. Forgiveness didn't mean forgetting. It just meant I was done carrying the weight of it all. I turned back to my canvas. I was working on a self-portrait, something I'd never attempted before. It was challenging, trying to capture myself honestly. Not the version I thought I should be, but the version I actually was. In the painting I was smiling. Not a big, performative smile, but a small, genuine one. The kind of smile that came from quiet contentment rather than forced happiness. As I painted, I thought about where I'd been a year ago. Sitting in Rochelle's apartment on that lumpy sofa bed, my life in pieces around me, unsure if I'd ever feel whole again. And now here I was. In my own apartment, in my own studio, painting my own face with my own honest smile. I lost so much. A marriage. A family I'd tried to belong to. The future I'd imagined. The baby I'd never get to meet. But I'd gained something too. Myself. My voice. My space. My peace. And in the end, that was worth everything. The painting took shape slowly, stroke by stroke. When I finally stepped back to look at it, I saw someone I recognized. Not the woman who'd been Trevor's wife. Not the woman who'd tried so hard to be good enough for Patricia. Just Simone. Finally, completely, perfectly herself. And that was the happiest ending I could have asked for.